together for a panel discussion regarding the emerging best practices in research methods, something which is dedicated especially for PhD research schools. And we want to exchange some ideas about what are the challenges that we have at national or European level, which are the best practices we can use, and especially how we can use emerging technologies to help students which are doing a PhD to progress and to get better results. In a way or another, these emerging technologies should also help the PhD supervisors to do that. This is why we have invited a couple of experts from different universities so that we can have different ways of seeing that. So please let me first tell you exactly, telling exactly who are our guests. And I will start with Antonella Poce, which is professor at the University of Rome, Tor Vergata. Antonella, please have a seat. And after that, each one of you will have the chance to give a short introduction. Then the next invited person is Professor Wim van Petegem from KU Leuven University in Belgium. So Pim, who is also now the president of Eden DLE, is also our guest today. The third person which we are going to invite now is Professor Albert Mora from the University of Catalonia in Spain, with again another perspective on PhD researches. Thank you. And then two other people from our university, Diana Andone, which is the director of the distance education unit in our university, and Silviu Vert from the communication department of the university. So this is just a very, very brief introduction of our guests. And now please allow me to let each one of them to do a short presentation, to introduce himself, to tell about what do they do usually, and which is their experience in this field of PhD research, and how do they can give some, let's say, advices for the young researchers. And then we'll start. So please, let's start with Antonella Poce. You can use this, especially if you have some slides.
Yeah, exactly. I have a very short presentation, but just to let you understand what we have been doing in Italy in this recent time as far as research and PhD investment is concerned. As Radu, thank you so much for introducing me, told you, I'm from the University of Roma, Tor Vergata. I also am associate researcher to the CNR, the Center for National Center for Research in Italy, in two different institutes, the Institute for Applied Mathematics and Information Technologies and the Institute of Cognitive Sciences and Technologies. So the field of research is, of course, one of my main concerns. I wanted to tell you and to focus a little bit on the picture that we have in Italy after the COVID-19 and the opportunity to have a series and a large amount of funding from the European Commission, this resulted in a situation that is actually working on giving a greater and stronger impulse to research and to PhD courses in particular, because it's there that we really want to find new opportunities for growth and development. So we have this more than 200 million euros assigned, and we need to work in order to, so a big investment for the year 24-25, and the possibility to extend, to open PhD courses also to arts academies, different kind of arts academies is a reality thanks to the recovery funding. There's also the distribution, and so the areas where this kind of funding are put, in particular, digital transition, environmental transition, public administration, so the renovation of public administration and innovative doctorates. Thanks to this large investment, the grants, in particular the innovative doctoral programs, that is a specific area of the program, raised from 30,000 euros to 60,000 euros. And this is, again, a very important investment that the European Union, of course, but the country is putting especially on doctorates. As you will see in the next slide, there's an important and interesting distribution in the different regions of the country. So the possibility of accessing this kind of programs is distributed all over the country in a different way, but anyway, everywhere. As I was saying, the areas of development are the ones I was telling you. What is important to notice is that per each region, we cover a large number of scholarships, more than 300 in many cases. In this slide, you see that there is also the possibility to see according to which area the different opportunities are distributed. So as I was saying, all over the country, of course, there are regions where you have more opportunities, like Lombardia, but also Lazio, the region from where I'm from, is has a large number of opportunities, and the area of development are the ones I was mentioning. If you want and have a closer look at the first graphic representing the country, you see also the distribution, the specific distribution. As you can see, other numbers that we can discuss on, 275 doctoral agreements, new doctoral agreements, 400 grants within the area of the renovation of the public administration, the possibility to access also a European research hub created on purpose within this program, and a strong work in the possibility of having the innovative doctoral agreements done with companies. So this opportunity of cooperation, of actual cooperation for growth and development, I need to hand, and this is the last one. So which is the impact and future opportunities for this funding. For sure, the fact that the research and skills are enhanced through this program, that collaboration between public and private sectors through doctoral programs is a reality, and that there's a strong contribution to the green and digital transition. This is the focus, and then we can discuss about that. But I will hand my presentation here. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Antonella. Okay. Thank you for being here. You should probably know that Antonella was just coming from an online presence to final thesis presentation in Italy, so she just arrived in time. Now, please let me introduce again Wim, who will make a presentation about something of the system in Belgium and some of his thoughts.
Yeah, thank you very much for the introduction. I would like to focus a little bit more on what we call digital scholarship. I will immediately start, with a slide that I used normally when I talk about digital scholarship, especially for teachers. But it's applicable, I think, in research as well, because it's all about knowledge building and knowledge distribution, dissemination. If you look at the left-hand side of this picture, this is, let's say, the very traditional way of how we think about transferring knowledge, how knowledge is building up in a community. There is someone in front of a room like this, and then just sharing his or her expertise with the audience. And that's the way that we distribute knowledge, or that we traditionally distribute knowledge. But if you really look at it nowadays, there is many more advanced and innovative ways of how we think about knowledge building, knowledge construction, knowledge sharing, and knowledge dissemination. And that is more what is happening at the right-hand side. Learning is happening, knowledge building is happening at different places, at different times, with different settings, with different people, all illustrated in the ways that you can see there at the right-hand side. So it's not just one person that has all the knowledge, all the expertise, distributing that knowledge, transferring that knowledge to the new generation, let's say. So does that mean that we as an academic, as a scholar, that we can simply assume, okay, I can do my work as a teacher, as a researcher, like I used to be doing, or can I, or should I, and shall I simply assume that my audience and the people that I work with, that they have changed because of the digital world in which we are living? Or should we transform ourselves and then just do something like we are used to do, but with all the tools and technologies, the innovative ways that we have available nowadays? I think the answer is somewhere in the middle. We have to combine the advantages and maybe also the disadvantages of the two worlds and try to find one new world in which we navigate as, let's say, the new digital scholar. And to help you with that new digital scholarship, together with colleagues from the University of Stellenbosch in South Africa, we developed a sort of framework that could help you to think about what does it mean, digital scholarship nowadays. And there are 3 dimensions in our framework. You see the outer arrows here in the picture, and that is one dimension. It's a dimension that we all know. If you're an academic nowadays, there is 3 things that we have to work on. We have to teach, we have to do research, and we have to outreach to community. And so these are always in our mind. If you're a digital scholar or not, this is what we used to do and what we have to do and what we are supposed to do. Okay. The second dimension is reflected in the blue circles here in the picture. When you are a digital scholar, it all starts with yourself, thinking about yourself. How do I want to behave in that new digital world? Do I want to use Facebook? Do I use Facebook with my professional life and also with my private life? Or do I have separate accounts? Or can I find a way to mix these two together? Will I use WhatsApp with my students or will I not do that? So position yourself in that new digital world is the starting point here with these blue circles. But you're not alone. As an academic, you work in a team, you work in a department, you work in a university. There is all these concentric circles in digital scholarship where you can link with other people. Meaning that when it comes to the use of digital technologies, I do not need all the skills myself in all these different aspects and all these different technologies. I can also rely on people around me, and maybe someone knows more about a certain tool, has more experience with it, and I can learn from that, and we can collaborate. And that is what is illustrated in these concentric circles. It goes as far as not just within the university, but in society, in the global world. We have to think about, okay, with whom can I connect? Can I collaborate? Can I use these new digital tools to become a digital scholar? So that is the second dimension in our digital scholarship framework. The third dimension is illustrated with the pie chart, so to say. And there you see the different roles that you could play in the digital world. You can be an author, you can be a storyteller, you can be a creator, you can be an integrator, you can be a networker. All of these have different aspects of digital scholarship. An author, we are used to write papers, right? In the digital world, we should think, okay, is that what we really need to do? Because then our paper is published in a journal, we get high citations, our impact factor is increasing. Yes, happy. But who is then benefiting from our work? I think that we need to ask that question, and we need to think, okay, is this what we really want to do as an academic, as a researcher, or do we want to do more? And then we start with other roles like storytellers. A storyteller is a bit more than an author. It's someone who brings a story and that is trying to convince the audience that you find something new, something interesting, something you would like to share with the rest of the world. A story that makes impact. But if you're telling your story, then probably you will use newer technologies to illustrate your story. So you're creating media or support like a podcast or something else, just to make sure that your message is heard in the world. And if you're doing that, then probably you have not just to do that with just one thing, with only a PowerPoint or maybe with a podcast, but maybe you have to find a good way to integrate all these different channels, all these different technologies to pass your message to the audience, right? And then the final thing is networking. That's okay. We all know that social media is becoming more and more important. Also in the academic world, we have to think about, okay, what is our position there? What do we want to do? What kind of technologies do we think are appropriate for bringing my message, my new research outcomes to a larger audience? So that is the third dimension in the framework. I think I have to be short and finish now. If you want to know more about this, I wrote an open access book together with the colleagues from Stellenbosch University. If you want to download it, it's for free, and it gives more explanation on the different dimensions of our framework of a digital scholarship. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Wim. It was just an introduction for the talks that will come, I think. Now let's go again to the south of Europe, to Spain, and Albert will do us a small introduction about his thoughts about the subject. Thank you, Albert.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to be short, but I would like to introduce you in this initiative, that it's an initiative of the Catalan government in order to promote the collaboration between the university or the academy and the industry in the field of research. So in 2012, it started as a pilot project with a few universities and a few industries or companies. And then after these 10 years of not a pilot project, I've been leading this since 2016. We can explain how it works in a few words. If later on you have some questions more specific, I will be more than glad to answer you. So an industrial doctorate in Catalonia is especially a strategic research project in which a company thinks that could go a further step beyond innovation in order to invest more than make any kind of current expense, and that it's a research as a medium term versus a short term. This is not so easy, it's not so usual. And they have also an ambitious challenge. They demand for cooperation, and they ask for resources and infrastructures that sometimes they don't have to. And they look for an impact on the company or the institution in its core business and trying to look for new markets too. So they see that probably through research, they could be much more competitive and much more innovative. And this is what they are looking for. Then, coming from the idea of the fact that usually the industry considers that we are wasting the time at the university, and the universities consider that the industries do not understand what we do, teaching and doing research, we try to build a bridge of collaboration between the industry and the academy. Then this is a summary of what is happening. The Generalitat de Catalunya is the name of the Catalan government. We provide this idea of making an industrial doctorate by trying to put in an agreement a company or institution and a university or research center through a group of research or an investigator. So they try to identify which is the problem they have and how this problem could be solved through research, and they agree on working together. Once they have agreed on that, they look for an industrial doctoral candidate that will become a PhD student. They sign an agreement of collaboration in which things that could be sensible or sensitive, like property rights, intellectual property, and so on, are agreed in that document from the very beginning of the project. And they develop a collaborative and applied strategic research. Then, by doing this, what the general idea of the industrial doctorate is that the company is going to hire the PhD student for 3 years, and they will pay for working as a PhD student. And they have to pay not less than 22,000 euros a year. This is one of the conditions that the government is putting to the companies for that. So then they agree on the thesis project. The student has to be registered in a Catalan university, in a Catalan PhD program, and then there is a supervisor for this program, and there is a tutor from the company, and then all three have to work together. The student has to pass half of the time in the company, half of the time in the university, or they can agree in a different distribution of this time. If they do that, and the proposal is accepted, the government is paying a grant for the student, paying the inscription at the program, and a study grant for traveling and so on, and also the university receives an amount of money, and the company receives another amount of money for the tutorship and for the supervision. So they go on, and sometimes people ask me about if they have the same level of quality or not as the academic doctorates. They are the same, because everything regarding the evaluation of this industrial doctorate is made by the academic commission of the university. So the criteria are exactly the same. And the final defense or exam is exactly the same too. So as a summary, I can say that in that 11 years now, a lot of companies have been participated. Currently, we have more than 1,000 PhD project, industrial PhD projects, in which more than 700 researchers have participated. More than 300 PhD theses have been defended, and more than 600 companies have participated too. And all the universities in Catalonia have also participated yet. 12 universities we have in Catalonia, and the 12 universities have been participated, and 26 research centers that are out of the universities. In order to be short, just to show some of the comments, because we have produced an evaluation of the program since 2014 until 2024, and we have some interesting feedback from the beneficiaries, the PhD students, the current doctors, and also the companies and the investigators. And you can see that the opinion of them and the value of them is quite good, because they consider that especially they are working in a dual environment, in a company or industry environment and in an academic environment. They can build a network of contacts both in the academic side and the industry side. They develop applied research much easier to transfer as a knowledge to the society, and they have also international experiences through states, congresses, and so on. I think that this is more or less all. There are some added value that this study provides us about that, but probably in order to be short, if you have any other question later on, I will be more than glad to answer it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Albert, and thank you for bringing into attention the idea of the doctorate, an industrial doctorate. Maybe we'll find some time during the panel discussion to discuss about fundamental and applied research between, let's say, traditional doctorate and industrial doctorate and so on. Now is the time to invite Diana to give us also some small presentation.
Yeah, so I'm going to speak more or less about generative AI and how you can use this in research and how it's legal now to use it more or less in research. I will point out quite a lot on the ethics and the legality of it. Quite a lot of this presentation, you find it in Zenodo. I gave in the last 1 year training a lot on these topics, and all the presentation there in Zenodo open access. So something quite a lot of us know that you can use a lot of writing tools to help you to write things. How ethical is that or not? There are two examples here. One is a paper which is looking exactly at this, of how you can chat and cheat with generative AI. And this paper after that has proven that has been written with more, in fact, it's citing correctly, but more than 25% of it was written with an AI tool. The other one, for example, which has about 40 authors, has not accepted that and is showing different methodologies on how you can write with an AI tool and what sort of tools you are doing it. So there are two opposites of papers, quite famous nowadays in the research in the area of AI, more or less, and they are all showing how you can really use it or not. A lot of the plagiarism detector don't really detect AI writing. It's quite well known. They're investing huge amounts of money on trying to understand better what exactly Teemu has said this morning, the method of the next neighbor works, because it's very difficult for them to understand that, because they're looking at purposes, and we know that AI tools don't look at purpose. So from the beginning, their way of checking the plagiarism is wrong. So it's not really working. That's the reason. But I need to say also Turnitin and Authenticate have quite a better one. We've done several tests of that. This is a paper which together with Silviu we tested. We wrote a full paper with AI on a topic which we know about. We checked and just changed bits of it, and it was detected only 7% that it's written with AI. So that's another proof. In fact, this is how you should not do it, more or less, and this is how you should use it. You can use several tools for what? For what AI is very good? For being your assistant. Leave your creativity flow, but do all the mundane work with AI as much as possible. And for example, one is Notion. There are several tools here. To some, I will just show to them, which is a workspace, which will allow you something which also Site-You-Like and a lot of other social bookmarking used to do in the past. It allows you to check information online, adjust it, and then it's just organizing it better. Tavily is also a very good AI researcher, like probably also Site AI doing it quite a lot. Perplexity combines AI with ready-made answers, and it gives you also the information from where it is coming. Elicit is very famous nowadays in the world of research because quite a lot of people are using it to scrap huge amount of publications and databases and to give a short version of which are the best papers where you should look, something which we used to do quite a lot with Scholar Google. And Scholar Google, I think it's looking to buy Elicit as far as I know. I don't know if they managed to do it. Then obviously use Killbot and for writing and paraphrasing. We use that. I use that quite a lot. While English, even if I quite consider that I know English and I've been taught and I teach in English, I still not my first language. And I have several habits which are so difficult to get rid of them, especially when you're writing. And that's helping me to find synonyms or better ways of saying things. And I don't consider that cheating. It's quite similar with the things in the 90s when we started using spelling in Microsoft Word. And then was that cheating? Quite a lot of professors then said it's cheating. It's not cheating nowadays because you use a spelling check, and now we use a paraphrasing tool to allow us to do that, or a translator tools. And Consensus is also doing that. So I will just briefly go over them. I explained them in the first slide where all of them there together. Something about regulations. In the last 1.5 years, since I've been doing trainings on that, not only my university, but in different other countries and conferences too, I strongly encourage all the higher education system to have very clear and very strong regulations about AI. Our university was the first one in Romania to establish that back in 25th of May, 2023. And in fact, we've been able to allow students to use and to cite correctly the use of AI in thesis, in either at any level of education. And also we gave them the guidance and training for that. As our president is coming from KU Leuven, I need to say KU Leuven was very advanced on this. They have even a very good website with a lot of information and data there on how to use AI in education as a student, as a teacher, and also as a researcher. And they were the first ones which started putting reference styles, how to use it. Now all the large libraries are showing this and understanding this. In March, the European Union has run a huge thing about how to use AI in research, and they came with this responsible use of generative AI in research. It's quite a good booklet, very comprehensive, because I think there were 200 researchers which gave inputs and so on, and it's a fact a result of a sort of survey which they ran among those which were using it. And these ideas, I think they're quite good. I just want to point to, if I'm allowed to, and this is the last slide, so it's fine. One is that you are responsible for what you're doing. That's very, very important. It's something, if you put it there, it's your own responsibility. Don't trust everything what is coming from a guy, from a generative AI tool. Use your creativity, your imagination, your knowledge to adjust and validate that. And then obviously privacy and confidentiality is very important. And if you put something which is your own intellectual property in a tool, be sure it's copied and multiplied and sent to somebody else. So you already lose that property. So be careful with things which are sensitive. Be careful with the things which you consider that has value, because if you put it there, if you publish it, it's like you've been sent to you don't know whom and to you don't know for what. Thank you very much.
Thank you for the presentation. Now, the last member of the panel, Silviu, which is going also to give us a couple of ideas.
Good afternoon to everybody. Sorry for my voice. It seems I lost it partially due to some flu. I'm going to give you a brief introduction on digital tools in open science. I'm a professor at the Politehnica University of Timisoara and dealing with such issues in my research. What is open science? It's basically the right to do everything and everything you want, morally and legally, with scholarly knowledge, if you cite properly the source and respect the open license that is attached to that knowledge. What we usually see are social media conversations on blog posts, maybe posters, presentations at the conferences and so on. But we see very little about what the researchers processes, about their data, peer reviews, their assumptions, and so on. And open science is trying to make open more of this. You can make your workflow and your knowledge more open using several tools that are available with free and paid versions of the software. And I'm going to give you only some examples. For example, for the preparation phase of your research, you can use to find grant proposals written by other researchers and share your own proposal on platforms such as Rio. For the searching and discovery phase, you can use, of course, the well-known Zotero for searching references and publishing your own for commenting openly with hypotheses, or pre-registering your studies with as predicted platform and so on. For the analysis phase of your research, you can find a lot of data and, of course, publish your own openly on platforms such as Zenodo, the code on GitHub using an open license, sharing your process, your ideas, your what works, what doesn't work during the research on in initiatives such as Open Notebook Science, and showing your sharing your protocols and workflows on such platforms such as protocols.io. During the writing phase, you can use software for publishing such as Autorea, or maybe the better known Overleaf. You can use actionable formats such as Jupyter Notebooks. For the publishing phase, you can start by publishing the preprints of your papers on platforms such as Archive, using and publishing peer review openly, and reading other peer review on PubPeer and on the sites of the journals that allow this, publishing open access, green or gold, depending on your choice on platforms such as the Directory of Open Access Journals, and of course, attaching an open access license to your work, such as Creative Commons. During the outreach phase, you can use Figshare to share the posters and presentations of your work and communicating the research outcomes on social media platforms such as X. And you should be doing assessment using platforms such as Altmetric, which does some alternative types of evaluations than the classic ones that we are used to. Why should you do this? sometimes because you're blind, because there are some mandates for open data, some local, national, international policies, but also because it feels good for you, you are contributing to the community, you are finding other collaborators and receiving and getting feedback. Thank you very much, and I welcome your questions that will follow.
Thank you, Silviu, and I hope you will recover your voice finally. From the beginning, from these presentations, I think you already saw that there are a lot of ideas and mentions about innovation, about co-creation, about digital transformations, and so on. And I think in a way or another, we all agree that also research in the PhD field are needing a sort of rewiring. So some new research methodologies to be used, some innovative ways and so on to help young people which are starting their career in research to advance quicker. If you can elaborate on that and give us your view, maybe it would be interesting, especially for the PhD students that we have here, because you are sharing different experiences in different countries.
Yes. Yes, this is absolutely true. And also our presentations highlighted different perspectives. What is common is that as we can see from the direction where the funding is put, we need to support activities and ways, different ways, more updated ways of doing research. Of course, if there is such an investment in Italy as in Spain, but because we mentioned these two areas of investment, but all over Europe we have the same orientation. We need to change also the way we all, from different perspectives, approach to PhD courses. Those who enter PhD courses and has as supervisors, lecturers, and they need to work together to co-design with companies is, I think, mandatory.
Thank you. I would like to continue on what your last said. I think you're right that we need to find new ways of collaboration. I remember when I did my PhD, that's a long time ago, and then I was a bit frustrated that we are teaching our students actually to work in teams, and we are training them skills to collaborate, and because we think that this is an important skill they need when they enter the labor market and when they start working in companies. But what do we do with PhD students? We evaluate them very personally, individually. There is no stimulus, there is no trigger that we ask our PhD students to collaborate actually in a research team, for instance. Okay, you're embedded in a research team, but you're supposed to do your PhD very individually. You're assessed very individually. There is no way that we think about a PhD in a team. So it's my frustration since I did my PhD a long time ago that we still haven't found something better than just assessing a PhD, doing a PhD research individually. So maybe we have to think about that. If I may, I would like to add another aspect here as well. And if I see new trends in research nowadays, then it's about, and it boils down to the same issue also. It boils down to more interdisciplinarity in research. I think that At this moment, my topic is engineering education. So it's two things together already. It's very interdisciplinary. And that is something that we should, I think that is happening more and more. I see in my university that we still have the faculties, and so there is still these silos of knowledge building in faculties. But at the same time, we are also thinking of what we then call Leuven institutes. And these institutes, they are bringing together researchers from different faculties, but working on a similar topic or something that is sort of across the disciplines. AI is a very good example in the sense that there is technology there is ethics involved, there is engineering, there is neuroscience involved. So there is a lot of things that's from different disciplines that is important to do research on AI. So these interdisciplinary type of research, I think that this is a new trend. And I can even go further, that's not just interdisciplinary research, but nowadays there is also more and more interest in what we call transdisciplinary research, where we say that, okay, the knowledge is not just built within the universities, within the faculties or across faculties, but knowledge is also built together with society. And then we come back again to the industrial doctorates and these kind of things. So that type of research where you break down the walls between the different disciplines and even break down the walls of our ivory towers of universities and open it up to society and bring all the interesting parties, stakeholders involved in knowledge building together, that is something that we have to look at, I think, in the near future.
Well, in my case, coming back to the topic I was asked to talk today, is I think that it's also important to open up research to the society. And historically, to do a PhD meant to stay at the university. And it means an academic career. But when we analyze the data about how is the introduction of new doctors in the academy, it's going down dramatically. So it means that probably if we would like to give a value to research, we need to reinforce that PhD students can also work later on in the society, not only in the academy. So this is one of the reasons, because that kind of program like the industrial doctorates in Catalonia is pursuing. On the other hand, it's true what Bim mentioned, that every time things are much more interdisciplinary. So the problems are more interdisciplinary, so the solutions should be too. And this is a way in order to understand that if we are going to analyze problems not only linked to a particular discipline, but analyzing the problem itself, probably the solution is coming from a group of different disciplines working together. So when we mention industrial doctorates, we are using this word because in the European Commission, they started to use this word. So we cannot change it, but our concept of industrials is very, very wide in the sense that it doesn't matter to be very technological industrial. We have some PhD, industrial PhD based on literature, for instance. It can be because at the end, what you are asking for is to have a kind of product of this research which can improve something related to the social life of people. So at the end, this idea of putting research also to the service of the society, not only of the academy, is a way to solve problems through research. Then if we identify that research is useful, we probably will have more young people researching too.
Yeah, I will pick up from this because you mentioned that more young people need to research. And one of the ideas why we started doing this is because we want to encourage more young people to start doing their PhDs or masters and to do research. Because we see in the entire Europe, in fact, the numbers are constantly decreasing on terms of how research is done and how much focus is done in research. If I want to have the input based on what I presented about AI, that's another way of doing it. Because once you do, including in the training which you give in part of the doctoral schools for, or also master schools to students, the new tools like Silviu and myself we've been showing, and also the theories which Wim has shown, it's becoming probably a bit more appealing for them to start doing it. They understand it better. And there are a plethora of tools which you can really use for the benefit of saving time, which is one of the, I remember, again, many years ago, but not that many, it was 12, 15 years ago when I started my PhD. The first thing for me, being an interdisciplinary PhD, because I've done it in computer science and also with pedagogy, I had zero pedagogy education. So I needed in less than 3 months to go through the entire history and methodology and theory of pedagogy without ever being trained. Well, I've done the training for pedagogy here in Romania. I've done my PhD in England. But for me, it was like a life-changing experience. And also to write essays. I'm a computer scientist. I never wrote essays until I got to do my PhD, and where I need to put things in from pedagogical perspective and think differently of them, and so on, and be counted on how you are expressing yourself and how you're connecting information from the pedagogical perspective. Then it was added the value of management, because it was also with the management, I had 3 interdisciplinary areas. So I had in 6 months to accumulate a vast amount of knowledge, which I think now with the support of an AI tool, maybe would have been less stressful, and it might have took less time. And then just by the end of PhD, and this is what I finished with this personal story, I discovered another very valuable author which was doing this. So it changed completely half of my PhD in the final writing part of it, in fact. So I needed to rethink quite a lot of my questions and how I'm answering to them, just because I completely haven't seen ever that author in my quest, and that's it. And this is something which, with the support of tools and collaborative tools and a lot of people publishing now more openly than it was then, when everything was in closed libraries and closed structures, will really make PhD students' life, I strongly believe, much easier and much better. So I think this is probably one of the reasons why we need to have training on how to use new tools, ICT tools for research, and also how to incorporate ethically and correctly AI in our research.
Thank you. I was thinking about the question and how young researchers can advance their career. And I would invite all the young researchers that are listening to us today to be very innovative and be somehow pioneers in their in the methods they use, in the tools that they use. I was, for example, exactly 10 years ago at the Open Data, Open Science conference in Washington. And we had there a young researcher, a girl, who was explaining to us, telling her story, that she was publishing back then exclusively, trying to publish exclusively gold open access, which was very hard for her because there were only a few journals that were doing this. So her work was not that well indexed afterwards. But she persisted. She had a pretty hard start in her career because of this, but she persisted, and afterwards she became a model for other researchers, and she got to talk about and teach about what she did in her first years as researcher. So I encourage you to put forward, to open up your ideas, the protocols that you use, the data that you generate. I'm very sure that Probably you are not so proud of your initial work. You are hesitant to open it up because you say that it's not that good. We all are. We all think the same. But if you do it, you will see that a lot of people will follow you, will comment on what you're doing, will give you feedback, will want to collaborate because you're probably or someone among the first ones in your field, in your niche, that is doing this. So I encourage you, and also to think during your PhD studies how you can collaborate with the industry using the examples that we've heard, and especially collaborate with startups. Try to bring the idea behind your research to the market by collaboration or by spin-off or by other means, so that you can have another way of contributing to the society through your research. So take into consideration also collaborating or starting your own startup after or during the research, but this is kind of hard doing both.
Okay, thank you very much for this first round. I would take from here a couple of conclusions. I very much agree with the idea of interdisciplinarity, transdisciplinarity, and so on. And I think that the universities, the academia in general, should also open their walls towards the public, towards the regions, and act accordingly. We have to take in mind that many of our projects now are based on the UNESCO development goals, which are very interdisciplinary and which should be taken into consideration. And this is why I would like to ask the young PhD students not to think that they should do a PhD only for being part of the academy at the end, but as Albert said, also being part of the society and giving that wish there. So thank you very much for that. Just before starting the panel discussion, we had a small discussion here, and we realized that there are very different systems between our countries in what means the organization of the PhD schools and so on. So there are very different things, but on the other way, I think we have very common goals too. All of you have a lot of experience in international collaboration. Antonella has experience in at least 3 universities in the last time in Italy. I know that. So yes, so I'm sure that we should all take advance from that. So what I would like to ask you before taking questions from the audience will be to try to tell some small words, some small advices for the young PhD students, because we all know, as it was also stated here, that the rate of involvement in PhD schools is not very high, that the research career is not very demanding for many people because they prefer to work in big companies, especially in the IT field, at least in Romania. And maybe you should give them some advices on what should they do in order to make not only their career but also their life better and for the future. So doesn't matter who would like to start, please just give us a couple of thoughts.
I can start maybe. And I'm again referring to my own PhD, at a certain point, my supervisor told me something that I still remember. He passed away a couple of months ago, but when I was talking about that advice that he gave me, he even couldn't remember that he ever said it to me. But it was something that he said, I can't remember, I think it was in a coffee break or so, but it always has helped me at least. And I'm referring to well, he was referring to Shakespeare, but he paraphrased one of the things that Shakespeare said, and he said, "You shall be international, or you shall not be." And I think that this was an advice that he gave, and that I always will remember. I think if you do research, if you work in the academic world, there is only one way forward, and that is look for an international career. In my university, it means that if you want an academic career, you have to, when you finish your PhD, you have to go to somewhere else in the world, at least for a couple of months, to do a postdoc. If you want to come back and start an academic career in the university. That was already in the 90s, last century, and it's still mandatory nowadays. You cannot just pursue after a PhD with an academic career in my university if you do not have such an international experience. I did it myself. I went to Canada for a year after my PhD, and it's such an eye-opener. If you go abroad, if you look in another country, what's happening there, it gives you so much inspiration for your own work. In my case, it even changed my research topic when I did my postdoc there. And since then, I have loved to travel. I apologize for my ecological footprint. That's not something I have to be proud of. But I still believe that if you know what's happening in the world, if you see how research, teaching and learning is happening in different parts of the world, I think that gives you a boost in your own academic career. So all PhD students here in the room, you shall be international or you shall not be.
Yes, they should. Go internationally. And I would say that one of the saddest things I'm realizing now is that there is not so much interest for the Erasmus grants, exchange mobility grants anywhere in Europe. If I remember well, the 90s were a time when everybody was fighting to get an international experience. Now it is not the same because I'm working, I cannot leave the company, because my girlfriend or so on doesn't want me to be out for I don't know how many months and so on. But this is a real eyes opener experience. So they should do it at least now.
And because I was talking about technologies and digital technologies and so on, you can do a lot with technologies to overcome the distances and to have international collaboration and so on. I still believe that this is also a way to go, and keeping in mind your ecological footprint. So technologies could help there. But I think you have to combine it with a face-to-face contact in a different situation, in different contexts. And so finding a good balance between the real Erasmus exchange or whatever other exchange and the virtual ones.
Sorry. I also think that what you mentioned that it's happening with the Erasmus change is that probably now traveling is so easy that they don't need an Erasmus project to do that. So it was at the beginning, because it was hard to travel and so on. So the priorities of people usually change. But coming with your question about what to say to the young researchers or young people that are not so involved in business schools and so on, or they are working and they don't want to say a word about research and so on, I would say that research is or should be a tool for advancing the quality of life in our society. And if people is proud of being useful for the others, for the society, this should be kept in mind. And on the other hand, in that sense, research is a way for open our minds, as travel is, for not having absolute truths, because it seems to be that if I'm working in that company and I'm doing things in that way, it means that it's an only way to do that things, and it is not. And also for questioning everything every day. So in some, is a way to make sense of life. And it could be good to have a sense of life in which we are working also for the others through our daily work and working in a way that it's good for the rest of the society too. So this is the idea that I try also usually to share with my students, in the sense that said, okay, maybe it's not necessary for you to do research. Not all of us should do research, but if you find out that research could be a good way for that, there are a lot of reasons for following this road. Doing research could be very satisfactory.
To stress the idea of being international, that is really mandatory. There are two aspects. I mean, it's important to build networks, and so to travel and meet and know different environments, because of course you can use technology and you can work at a distance, but some things are not possible if you don't leave the environment physically also. And so it's important for each individual development, but it is important to see and to understand that the approach, the research, the method approach that you learn through a PhD experience is something that you need to use whatever is your position and whatever is your institution. So I would stress the opportunity of working internationally and of, having the possibility to open your minds and to be more productive. And this, of course, implies also being more productive, more attractive for any employer. So a PhD experience, we should change our attitude, our way of interpreting a PhD experience, understanding that is really professional development and that it can be spent in many different environments. Is a way of mind that we need to change, in my view.
Thanks, Antonella. If somebody wants to continue, please.
Yes, I will continue, and then also I will say if you want to have questions either in Zoom or here, in Zoom, obviously the Q&A, and here you can just raise your hand and we can take some questions. And my advice, beside the international, which I have some students here, which they know that I'm preaching this, not only saying it, it's preaching and pushing as much as possible. The other one is that be curious. Don't ever stop being curious. Try to learn something from different aspects. And again, going back to my PhD experience, one of the papers which is most cited probably and which is more used and which in fact attracted, I think, my second best paper award was an analogy between computer science and biology, and considering the ecosystems of living as a panacea. So, and that's something which also changed my life. And it just came up from a documentary which I watched, and then I start reading about that. So be curious also in other areas, in other things, because ideas, if you are curious, can come from anywhere and you can implement them in your research, either as a PhD or even now. I take ideas from a lot of areas and try to implement them into things which we are doing.
Just for a short follow-up to what Wim said, I didn't have a chance to move to another country 1 year after the PhD, because exactly 1 week after defending the PhD, I got married. But I did 2 Erasmus exchanges before that during my master and PhD studies, and it's helped me a lot. So
Yeah, I will stress the idea that, okay, I believe that you can do many things through technology. You can do virtual mobilities, you can do many things, but you cannot have the feeling of the cultural differences and about what's happening in another culture. This is why my advice was for not only for students, but also for some members of staff and of the management of the universities, that some short visits of 1 week or so doesn't mean almost anything, because you cannot see. You should live at least half a cycle of a university life abroad in order to see and to understand something. So at least 6 months in order to understand and to see which are the weak and which are the good parts of it. Otherwise, it doesn't count for me, at least. From another point of view, I would like to keep from that the idea of internationalization, and I would like to ask students to be courageous, to have the courage to break the walls, as it was already said, to have the courage to work to a bigger project together, and to have the responsibility to be able to say exactly, I did that. This was my idea. This is my contribution. This is his contribution, so that you can at least finalize and be able to be evaluated individually for team projects, which I think it's very important at this moment. And you also have a lot of opportunities. We just discussed that there are big differences, and this makes a problem for university alliances, for the European universities, to create some joint PhD programs and so on. But we are going sometime to find a way to harmonize different legislation, different ways of doing and so on. So please take advantage of that. Finally, I think we should go also to some questions from the room, and to the end, just some short words, one sentence from each one about what's happening. So questions from the room, please.
Thank you for your comments, which I agree with all of you. However, we work in universities, and what our students need is to be able to work and study with a PhD in multidisciplinary teams. This is the way forward to solve big problems, etc. Now, how are we going to persuade our universities, who are so slow to move? And our VCs change every 5 years. And if I look back at the Open University, the only thing I can say our VCs really do is change the stationery or the signs on the campus. So I think students need to get together, and we ourselves as international researchers. But I do envy you being in Europe now, because I've been called to a big Horizon project for my own expertise, working in an energy engineering project, which I never thought I would, which is very exciting. And you talked about methodologies, and you learn different methodologies and ways of thinking. That doesn't mean to say that the discipline that you're working with in another is not robust. It really is. But I'm so concerned about us not being able to do any of this in our universities. So any advice, I will be taking it home with me. Thank you.
Thank you. Who wants to get an answer?
Okay. This is a very important question. In the program that I introduced you, I underline the fact that this kind of investments that we have been carrying out in Italy are exactly focusing on the need of having transdisciplinary, interdisciplinary groups. So in particular, the national PhD courses are all made of very different research groups based on belonging to different kind of institutions, either academic or private in the private sector or in the companies sector. But this idea of interdisciplinarity is supported by this kind of funding. So this is a step forward that we should bear in mind and find ways, of course, of fundraising in this sense, because if you have that, then things are easier, of course, from a university point of view. The other issue is to face the problem you were mentioning, that we support on one side interdisciplinarity also through these funding schemes, but then we are limited because each PhD candidate should produce an individual research that is the result of an individual work. So it's contradictory.
Yeah. Maybe I'm working in a privileged environment, Denise, but I think that in my university, it's rather well accepted that we do this kind of interdisciplinary research. A bit the same like what Antonella says, there is possibilities to get funding for projects, and we get higher priority if we can show that there is this interdisciplinary teams working together in a project. And like I mentioned, we also institutionalize that thanks to the Leuven Institutes on different topics where researchers from different disciplines and different faculties meet each other, talk about possible collaboration, where then new project ideas are born, and where they then can find colleagues to work with and submit project proposals for funding. That's one way, I think. But that these institutes are endorsed by the management of the university, so they are putting some money into these institutes. But I also think that it should be a sort of bottom-up approach. I think I very much believe in that bottom-up approach myself. Like I said, I'm working in engineering education, and so engineering and education are two different disciplines. If you want to collaborate, then talking about methodologies, I sometimes make a joke when an engineer sees a problem, then he is happy when we found a solution, right? An engineer, and I hate problems, I love solutions, being an engineer. But if you then work together with people from educational sciences, because that is then the education part of the research, they have a totally different mindset, and they are using totally different methodologies to work on a certain problem. And they are not so much interested, well, at least that's my opinion, and probably they will be angry with me, but if they see a problem, they are happy when they have analyzed the problem, when they have looked at the problem from different angles, when they understand the problem better, when they know the factors that play a role in the problem itself. And sometimes then I make the joke, if they are, when they are doing that, they are making the problem even a little bit bigger, and then they are happy. They are not so much interested in finding, or not so much interested in finding a solution for the problem than we as engineers are. But this is just joking. I think that the way that we think about a problem and a research towards finding a solution for the problem, that's certainly valued, I think. But there is also equally value in how they look at the problem, how they want to study the problem, and how they are analyzing it with their methodologies. If I can integrate that mindset, if I can integrate that sort of thinking that sort of perspective on researching a certain problem into my own work, I think that I also as an engineer can do better than just go straight ahead with trying to solve the problem and being happy with what we found. If we can combine these two things together into something more interesting, something more valuable with more impact on society, maybe that would be very nice. So my advice is bottom-up approach is as important as the top-down approach of the institution.
Well, I'm coming from education, but however, I'm happy to find a solution. So no, what I mean is that yes, the only problem is that sometimes the problem is to find a solution. So no, yesterday we were talking with Denise and a group of people in the PhD master class, and this topic arose in the sense that our answer was that usually when you are doing a PhD, you have to demonstrate your capacity for research. This is the final aim of a PhD project and so on. So probably my problem is I don't have the solution. I have some ideas, but I don't know if they could work or not. But one of the problems is that PhD students look for and choose individually a problem for their research, for the thesis. And sometimes even the supervisor could manage the student in order to move him or her to another side. But we don't identify joint collaborative projects as a solution for big problems. Maybe the starting point should be this one, not identify individual PhD projects, but collaborative PhD projects. And then to segment these projects in several tracks in which one could take sub-researches which could or will contribute to the solution of the big problem and make the people, the individual people, like a work package responsible for that. And then we will have the work team or the teaming work, but at the same time, one would be responsible for some particular aspect more related to their discipline. And the third point is to change regulations in order to give the research capacity to every member of the team after having been assessed their evidence of compliance of the research. But this has to be regulated too, because in some countries, this cannot be done. So some regulations say that the PhD has to be individual. So this is the first stage to change that. But only changing that do not solve the problem. We need also a wider solution that could be on that way.
Yes, because I'm afraid the time was passing quicker than we expected, so we don't have too much time. Fortunately, we don't have too many questions in the chat, which needs a reply now. We are going to answer maybe individually after that. So we only have 2 minutes, 2 more minutes. So please, just in one sentence, what is your opinion about what should happen in the fields of research, change of methodologies, PhD involvement or whatever, use of technologies, whatever you think it is important as a conclusion to that?
In one word, support, cross-sectional skills, especially cooperation at national, international level in the different fields. So cooperation, support these kind of skills and invite young people to come and enjoy a fantastic experience.
I would repeat myself, I think I was talking about interdisciplinarity. I think that this is very important, and being international is another aspect. I think that I would like to give as a message to the audience.
Well, in my case, first is to support young researchers. I think it's important for them to see that there is a space, there is room for working when they are young in order to become experienced researchers. And on the other hand, to work interdisciplinary, but giving the value to all the disciplines. It's not worth to think that some disciplines are the important ones and other ones are just a kind of support to the important ones. So problems are so big that all the disciplines can provide some kind of solution to them. So working together means exactly that.
I will pick up from there and maybe add something which I also wanted to say before. In research, we think quite a lot about research question, either to answer them, either to close them. Closed roads in research are the most difficult ones to prove, especially at least in science or in engineering. The other bit is that we need to change that. I think, especially based on UNESCO Sustainable Development Goals, the SDGs, we need to change it to challenge questions. So big challenges, and then interdisciplinarity, the use of technology is coming, being digital, being green, also in research it's coming, but then and working obviously with the industry and finding solutions for the society. So those will be my final thoughts.
Doing things just a little bit differently in all the ways that you've heard before. You don't have to innovate, think of innovating completely each time, but doing things just a little bit differently than your peers are doing it will help you get in front really well.
Okay. Thank you very much, everybody, for the interesting things you said. We need to close now the session because there are some other sessions of the conference coming up. So if there are some other questions during the coffee break, maybe you can also discuss with our panelists. So thank you very much for your presence and for the questions, and all the best. Thanks.